So good morning, everyone. Great to be here today. It's a fantastic. We are just getting into the festive season, peak time for all the shoppers and for the retailers in India, both online and offline. And today's conversation is with one of the sort of stalwarts of Indian retail, especially in the fashion and sports retail space. So I've got Abhishek Ganguly with me. He leads PUMA in India and Southeast Asia, and obviously has really built the brand in India. It's become an iconic brand here, and it's very very aspirational, along with a lot of the other brands that are coming into the market today, really addressing the sort of the needs of the growing Indian consumers and shoppers. And today the conversation is in the theme for this is what is the way forward for brick and mortar retail coming out of COVID, because obviously COVID had a huge impact on brick and mortar retail, with many high streets and stores and malls being shut for long periods, then opening up, then closing down, various cities and governments, city and state governments implementing lockdowns as and when they thought it was important to do that. But it was very disruptive. And as a result, a lot of the shoppers were not visiting offline or their physical stores, brick and mortar stores. So I think today's conversation is about what happens now that we are getting out of this. Hopefully, there's no third wave, and we continue to see the growth that most offline retail brands are seeing. And what are the challenges and some of the trends that are going to be there? So Abhishek, maybe a quick 30-second introduction about yourself and about what you do in India and your larger role, and then we can get into the conversation.
Thanks, Rajat. So I've been with the company PUMA for some time since we started up in India. It was way back in 2006 when we set up our subsidiary in India. And since 2014, I've been leading the organization in India. I also now run the Southeast Asia market for us, which are 12 markets in Southeast Asia. India has been a phenomenal run for us. As a lot of you might already know, we are the largest sportswear brand in the country. We had a great run over the last 1 decade, I would say. We are a multi-channel brand. We are as much into offline as we are into online. We've got almost 400 exclusive stores in India. And on the retail side, on the offline side, tried to create a lot of immersive experience today for our consumers, because our category today has a lot of tailwinds because people are focusing more on health and fitness, sports getting more popular, athleisure becoming a very key element in the closet today for a lot of people. And hence we're seeing a lot of tailwinds in our business. So we focus a lot on offline, and on the online side also working a lot on our own online platform as well as marketplaces, trying to create convenience for consumers shopping online.
Great stuff, yeah. And I think that you're absolutely right. There are clearly a lot of I think this sector needed the tailwinds as well, because being through what you guys have been through with I remember last year, just getting into the season, and then suddenly we have a complete lockdown. Then it opens up. This year, Jan, Feb, March were great months. And then you're ready for a bumper April, May, June. And then suddenly we have another massive lockdown. So I can't imagine how you guys manage your inventories and managing the entire business during the time. So just starting with that conversation and just leading on from what you said, Abhishek. I mean, if you look at, what's next for brick and mortar retail, given what they've been through, given all this chat about, online e-commerce, because literally COVID was almost tailor-made for online retail, right? They got the boost. Everybody was forced to sort of almost move to online because offline was not available for a majority of the population. What next for offline retail? Should offline retailers be looking at expanding footprint even now, or should they be rethinking the strategy and say, okay, I have enough, and should I then be focusing all my energy on online? And what is sort of more broadly your strategy, and what is your advice to other retailers who are expanding and looking to either expand in India or currently looking at their strategy going forward?
Well, it's a great time to ask this question, to be honest, because as brands and retailers, we ourselves dabble with it every day. First and foremost, I firmly believe that online penetration and the growth, like everyone else today does, is going to be a phenomenon for the future. Online is something that we believed in, not just today, but at least 5 years back. And hence we had a lot of benefits because we were not making, a helter-skelter drive during. So we always believe that e-commerce is going to be a channel for future. Having said that, for a brand like ours, it is extremely important to be out there, to be felt for the consumer, right? So the touch and feel, engaging with the customer, like sports itself is something so real, right?
Absolutely.
And hence sportswear can never just have a digital element. Digital helps in discovering pieces, discovering information, discovering products. It also helps in transactions on e-commerce at convenience. But the consumer engagement piece, the touch and feel, the immersive experience that you can have with your consumers can only happen offline. The reason I said for us, it's a great time to have that question because this year we have opened almost 25-30 stores already.
Wow.
In fact, just yesterday we opened our largest store in North India in Cyber Hub, which is a very large space of retail, which is an experiential store, our second experiential store in India. It's a new format which we do in the top cities in the world, and with a lot of digital elements in the store as well. So we see that, and I was there at the store, and I can tell you that the more you spend time in such kind of a retail, format, the more you start believing that this is what, as things open up, this cannot be replaced by e-commerce, right? And we had our athletes there. We had Mary Kom, we had Washington Sundar, we had Rupinder Pal Singh from the Indian hockey team. We had the Punjabi music artist Hardy Sandhu there, and there were consumers engaging. When you do such stuff, you realize that the experience can never be, replicated 100% on digital. So I strongly believe that for brands which are iconic, which have a cult following, there has to be an offline strategy. And we will continue to open stores in tier 1, tier 2 locations, tier 3 locations in some cases. I think India is growing. I believe with regards to sports and athleisure, we're still just scratching the surface. And we'll continue to open retail stores in locations to give our consumers the opportunity to come and engage with the brand.
Yeah, fully agree. I mean, even if you look at 400 stores in India, I mean, as a percentage of population or per 1,000 people or even per 10,000 people, the penetration is still so low, right? I have to drive miles to get to a PUMA store. And why should that be? And like you said, experiential shopping, creating that. You talked about putting a F1 simulator in the store, looking at other sort of experience, and just going to a PUMA store or a Decathlon or any of these stores, the experience of actually touch, feel, try out, and for kids to come and, play around. I mean, it just creates such a buzz. And I think you're also looking at a lot of personalization of products in the store, that you mentioned to me last time when we spoke about your store in Bangalore. So personalization, getting people to try out. And I think that gets missed out, right? In terms of where we go. And so then what should be if we were having this conversation 3 years from now, 5 years, maybe too long, what would be the optimal mix of your sales that you would think should come from offline versus online? And what is that portion today, and where would you see that going?
Look, today we are almost 30 to 33% of our business is online. I believe this share will keep growing. Because one also has to understand that our category is very young, our consumers are very young, okay. And hence we believe that the growth in online for some time will be far faster than offline.
Okay.
Very difficult to put a number to this, whether it's 40%, 45%, or 50%. I'm actually not very, to be honest with you, Rajat, I'm not very hung up on that. I think what is important for us is that we have realized as a brand that there are certain things that online gets into the play. There is convenience, there is endless, selection. There is one can deliver to any pin code in India, right? There are a lot of advantages of that. And on the other hand, there are a lot of advantages of offline stores with the stores that we were just talking about, right? Or the type of stores we were talking about. So I think what we will do is that we will lay the land and let our consumers take the decisions, because a consumer today is anyways, researching a product online or discovering a product through a social media influencer on a social platform, and might be coming to a store and purchasing, or maybe coming and trying the product at the store and finally making the purchase online, or actually finally making the choice of certain products online and then finally coming and making the purchase online. In a store.
In a store,
so
absolutely.
What we should, as an organization, our endeavor is to lay the land in the best possible manner for every channel and let the consumer have the experience. And our responsibility is to make it as seamless as possible. For example, if you go to a store today, if you don't have a size, you can place an order online and the store team will enable that, right? So, to make that experience seamless is our responsibility, and we let the consumer do the choice. So now whether that ends us becoming half of our business online in 4 years' time or 5 years' time, only time can tell. But I am convinced that just an offline story does not work, for sure, that all of us have realized through pandemic. And similarly, just an online presence. A lot of times, I can talk about, at least for our category of lifestyle and sports and fashion, that just can't happen. Just saying that, okay, we will just be a D2C brand with our online, presence can only take you that far, because consumers also expect you to be out there where one can engage in a more real level.
No, I totally agree with you that shopper experience, shopper journey, understanding that interaction, creating that cross-sell. And like you said, I think maybe the key mantra is going to be available wherever the shopper wants to shop the category. If he or she wants to shop online, fine online. If he or she wants to experiment, especially for your NPD, new products, higher end products, more exciting launches, those kinds of things cannot be experienced purely online. It has to be a good mix. And I think that makes absolute sense. And still in India, we are 95% offline retail, right? Only 5% is online. So we talk a lot about online, but majority of retail is still pretty much brick and mortar here. So just moving to the next point, where do you think, what some of the behaviors that are you seeing or that you think are likely to remain, post-COVID, that as things are opening up, what are you seeing as differentiated behavior, shopper behavior? Is it that they are more informed? Is it that they're coming with a much better knowledge of the product because they've researched more online? And do you think some of these trends are likely to continue, or just are we going to see back to, like, maybe not back, but a lot of it going back, like we may have seen in the past when things open up, that people say, okay, back to square one, we are back to offline retail. How do you see that?
Well, there are a lot of new trends that I see, to be honest, Rajat, and I can probably pick a few that strikes my mind right now. One is that you're absolutely right. Today, a consumer, a shopper is extremely aware. And that is to do with today, as the adoption of digital has happened, people know in and out. They come to a store, they know product features, they know the story behind the product creation. They know competition product which matches up to that product. So consumer is today very, very aware, right? And that awareness really comes and shows when he comes and shops with us in a retail store. So that is something that I see. The other thing is that, gone are the days of how we used to see segmentation happening, this is one SEC A, SEC AA. That's not how consumers are today segregated. Consumers are today a part of communities. It is not to do with a demographic and an income profile. matched up and just, so today a consumer is behaving like it's a part of a community. A community, somebody might be relating to a particular music artist, might be relating to a local artist. Somebody might be relating to a sport, or to riding or biking. And then there are local communities, hyper local communities, which are getting formed. So today, I think one of the things that I'm seeing coming out post COVID is that creation of local communities basis diverse interest areas, or specific interest areas that they might have. And because of that, today, that is influencing the choice of brands as well, right? If you're a biker in Gurgaon, or maybe in your own company, they have similar passion to follow, and they themselves form a community on their own. And the marketing today has to impress upon that cohort together, right? So it's a very different, I would say, local community creation that has happened today, because we are expressive, far more expressive today. This is something that I see as a trend. Third, we already touched upon that today, omni-channel is a word which is very used in the business very loosely. But the fact remains that consumers are already omni-channel. Consumers today are moving from one part to the other, consuming content somewhere, engaging with the brand on social, making transactions somewhere else. And I see that post-pandemic, that the companies which would be able to create convenience for the consumer for each channel and seamlessly integrate the channels will be successful, and marketing channel including. It's not just the sales channel. The brand ambassadors are as much a part of that. Instagram of that brand is as much a part of that, right? So I see that this is something that I see that people who would be able to. I sometimes find it a bit. How should I say that? The omni-channel is so loosely used, but I think the omni-channel, multi-channel thinking, right, and seamlessly integrating, including brand and marketing channels, would be a key success factor for future. So these are some of the trends that I see, and something great for our business. And I see that we are only going to just go. India is going through a time when fitness, sports, workouts, running, biking, cross training, women doing calisthenics, Pilates, yoga, more women doing fitness, expressing themselves. Overall, this trend around sports and fitness, we were never a sporting nation as much as the developed markets. And I actually see a pivotal change happening right now.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good from a health perspective as well. So key things around fitness, big trend, omni, big trend, buying in communities, big trend, and then getting these, getting obviously the influencers involved in that part. And sort of that leads me. And then you talked about this whole single view of customer. We talk about it, but I don't see brands really doing much with it. If I enter a store, a PUMA physical store, or I'm a shopper as well. If I go to any store, very rarely do the store assistants try to even make a connect with you. That did you shop before? Are you on our app? Have you shopped here before? Can you share some data? They are very reticent and reluctant to even have that discussion. So I'm like, how are you changing that? And are you sort of creating that single view of shopper, that no matter where Rajat goes and shops, whether I'm shopping on your D2C channel or another online channel or in one of your stores in any part of the country, how do you make that connect and make that work from an analytics and customer analytics and CX point of view?
Look, I mean, I would like to believe that we are a bit ahead in the journey, and whether we are good enough, we are not. There is a huge headroom on this piece. I completely agree with you that brands have not been very successful. I think what has happened is brands focused on offline retail at some stage. Then over the last 2-3 years, with the onset of e-commerce and the pandemic coming and hitting us, now everyone is trying to get their e-commerce strategy right? And I think the next would be that how do you do all this piece about single view, seamless experience. I think it's our endeavor. So today we have a single view of the customer. Today, if you shop at a CP store or a CyberHub store or Ambience in Gurgaon, and you have shopped with Puma.com, truth is that we would know where you are shopping, your transaction. We would be able to personalize our communication to you, to what you actually see on the homepage, to what we communicate with you, what feed comes to you on Instagram, for example. When you come to us, we would target you accordingly. So I would say from a marketing standpoint, we as a company have really come a lot in the past, right? I mean, we have acquired a lot of customers and created a customer journey, increased our lifetime value with our customers, increased the overall, I would say, engagement with our customers through customer journey mapping from a marketing standpoint. Where I think there is work to do, and it's not an easy solve, is that what you said, right? When somebody walks into a store, how is his online behavior getting reflected, and the team accordingly personalizing the experience? I think it is possible, but also it's a very difficult execution because of various. First is how organizations are today structured, right? You have a e-commerce team separate. You have sometimes all of these structures come into the way, which we are trying to remove. And that often comes to the way. You have a multi-brand team, you have an e-commerce team, and everyone is working in silos. So we are trying to break that. But what also happens in retail is that the team in the store also changes quite a bit, right? They move from one store to the other. These are not the same people, right? So a lot of times these things come into the picture, and training and continuously telling them that, okay, this is Puma.com, and giving them the right kind of a back-end information for them to do it is not a very easy execution, but I must admit that that's our endeavor.
Oh, that's fantastic to know. And I think, like you said, it's a journey, right? Nobody has cracked it. There's also a lot of resistance because of privacy issues. How much data can you capture? But I think what I find quite interesting is that even when you go to a store, offline store, they don't even try to make a connection with the online. And like you said, I think there's just two silos that are operating. Offline guy doesn't think I need to really care about what this guy does online. And the online guys probably never visit, are never spending enough time in stores, and they're not maybe. And I think maybe breaking those silos could be the solution, where teams start to talk to each other more and say, hey, this customer walked in, he had actually done the search online. It's also maybe about sharing sales credit, and how do you make sure that everybody gets rewarded for the sale. Otherwise, everybody becomes a bit conservative. So just leading to the next point there, what happens to is D2C a reality for brands today? Because clearly there is a lot of pull being created by the large platforms. They're driving a lot of footfalls. They're like your super malls, which they attract everybody in because of their promotional activity, their discounts, their marketing activity, all the noise they create. But then you don't get the consumer data in that, right? You get some data, but not all the data. So how does that work for you? How do you make that work? And is D2C a reality from that point of view to create that? And if you create a D2C model, what is the advantage of a D2C model for a brand like yours or any retailer?
So Rajat, the way I would say is that in my opinion, there are three elements, three channels, right? One is a D2C, direct to consumer, offline, online, where you completely manage the consumer experience, right? Right from selection to pricing to managing the delivery in terms of e-commerce, managing the store in terms of retail. On the right side, you have wholesale, where you sell to a retail partner who in turn sells it off, and you basically, that's a trade partner that you have, and the trade partner does the customer experience, selection, pricing, and you try to feed them with the right product as per their needs and their customer group. But also what is there is in between, we sometimes ignore, which is a bit of hybrid structure, which is like, for example, on the offline side, your franchise stores, right? Where it's a mono brand run by somebody else. Also on the offline side, you have these marketplaces Marketplaces, yes, you don't have customer data, but one can always influence content, pricing, because you can always list as a seller, selection. So it's a bit of hybrid. So you own half of the experience, and half of the experience is managed by your partner, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In the pure play classical wholesale model in India, in very few categories, you have retail partners who are today so well established that they can do the entire job themselves, right? Unlike the Western world. You go to the Western world, you have all types of retail partners, that you have departmental stores, sneaker stores, denim stores, super stores, all types of
such a big variety of
Right, and a brand can go and give the relevant products to them, and they can manage the entire customer experience.
Yeah.
In my opinion, in India, we have A and B, and we need both. As a brand, I think having A, which is like where you own everything, will give you a complete access to customer data. You react on the basis of that. You actually make your range plan, which across the chain, because you today have direct access, you can act faster. So I think it's a very important strategy to have a direct access to the consumer, because it gives you the pulse. It also helps you engage with your loyal customers very well. And it also helps you give the best experience possible, like in a store, like which you own. You do everything that you want to do, which is not just commercial, but it is also good for the brand and is more long-term. And then it's important to then look at the hybrid model, where the partner does a part of the job in terms of the experience, but you manage the rest of it. Like you manage quite a bit of it. And I think one needs to look at a hybrid B2C model as well. That can happen with franchise stores, that can happen with marketplace models, and not treat them just like a wholesale model where you invoice and forget about it.
And the D2C online play, do you think that that is a scalable model for brands?
Yeah, absolutely. It depends on the brand. If there is a cult status of the brand, an iconic status of the brand, with a lot of interesting content relevant to the local audience in India, and which is people want to buy that brand on an ongoing basis, have a kind of an emotional attachment with the brand. Like if there are these elements, then definitely the brand needs to have a D2C online play. Already, I would say our .com, our own .com is today almost 7 to 8% of our business, and I see this growing substantially in future. It's growing, 3x during the pandemic.
And is that a model that you use for just collect? Is it more the experience? It's not a model which could be making money for you, given the size and the cost to serve and cost of acquisition.
No, not at all. It also means that we have the entire margin, to be honest, in this model. We don't have to pay commission, and we invest the same money in customer acquisition. And we have a lot of organic
growth happening.
Traffic. A lot of organic traffic, because a brand today, as a brand, we have people coming to our .com which is not paid, because people love the brand and they would search for the brand. So a lot of traffic comes from organic search. A lot of traffic comes from in an organic way. So we don't have to actually spend on customer acquisition. So it is a profitable model to grow.
And you see that, and that's part of your 33% that you mentioned, which is your online. And you think this has become a bigger part of your overall online play for you?
Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. So I think we're coming to the end of our sort of timing. Abhishek, always a pleasure to talk to you. Any last thoughts, 2 or 3 sort of, pearls that you can give out based on your last 18 months of, this tumultuous experience of managing business through this very tough time. Just some thoughts on what retailers should be doing as they look at the next 18 months to 3 years.
In fact, I don't have to look back 18 months. I just need to look back 4 or 5 months and think that we were all in a space where we were all, India has the worst crisis ever with the second wave. We were all trying to save our own lives and the lives of people who are dear and near to us. from the time today, the way I see everyone in India, such a great show of resilience, that we are always looking ahead. There have been a lot of personal losses in a lot of people that we closely know. Some of us have been more unfortunate than the other. And yet you see today the kind of resilience we're talking, all that we are talking, for example, in this call, was unimaginable 4 months back, Rajat. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
that time, if you and I had to chat,
Yeah.
talk about whether, we are safe or not, right? So I think one thing is very clear. Our country is extremely resilient, whether it is the shopper, whether it is the prospective consumer, or whether it is the business. We have an immense amount of resilience. So that's my biggest takeaway. At that point of time, it seemed that there is no tomorrow. And look at today, we are just marching ahead. Which gives me a lot of hope, to be honest,
Okay.
as a business person and as for me personally as well. The number two thing that I see is that on the business front, I'm seeing brands, companies which are forward thinking, flexible, nimble, ready to learn, and looking ahead, not 5 years ahead, like you said, but 2 to 3 years ahead, and saying, what do we need to do? What is the next problem I need to solve to stay afloat and grow, right? I think those forward thinking, flexible organizations are the ones which are being successful and which will continue to be successful irrespective of the category.
Thanks. And where do you see, last point on technology, what does technology mean to your business today and looking forward 18 months to say maybe 2 to 3 years?
Technology is the biggest enabler for any business. Technology is not the end point, but it is the most important element today in the journey.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Abhishek. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and always, learn a lot by interacting with you and hearing about your experience. Look forward to visiting your new store in Gurgaon next week. But thank you so much and have a great weekend. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, Rajat. You take care.